After I watched the scenes I was in that I would do differently, especially the first time Pierce arrives, I think I didn't quite understand. It was my first scene I shot was when he shows up and he looks around and he says, let's get to work. And I hadn't asked and I didn't know how they lens the show or what cameras or how many angles or how many sizes they do. Because in Smallville we do a wide, medium, close-up, and then we would do an extra close-up. It's like the beauty shot. And I didn't know if they were doing that or not. And I think what happened was they were rolling 2 cameras, a wide and a medium. And in back of my mind, I thought maybe we were going to do more. And so when I came down and I do that, I think I would have done it differently had I known that that's all they were going to film of it and not be closer. I think I would have shown more because it's pretty vague. So when I watch it, I'm like, you could have had a little more going on there. But it's because I thought there was going to be another shot. So I'm learning this because it's the second story I've told today where I could have known more and not just assume things are going to happen. But you also don't want to be that guy who's like, hey, how many shots do we have? Well, and they're like, just act. Let us do the directing part. Yeah. But and a lot of the fun things that happen on Lucifer were in between takes, especially when you get Lauren and Tom together because they're just hilarious and they're just inappropriate. Lauren's inappropriate. Tom is like wonderfully professional and kind and talented. And Lauren's all those things too, but she's very inappropriate. And it's true, she would do things and I'm like, I don't think you can do that. And all the crew guys are like, yeah! She's like, see, they love it. Like, all right, I can't do that, but you can do that. She's fun.
Hi, Tom. My name is Danielle. First, I just want to say I'm such a huge
Aunt Nell?
Danielle.
Oh, Danielle.
Sorry. I grew up watching you on Smallville. That was like my whole childhood. Yep. And what I want to say is, are we ever going to see you and Erica work together again? Because you guys just have such amazing chemistry on screen. And
Erica?
Erica, I think all the Smallville fans would love to see you guys together.
I just saw her in Chicago. She was telling me about these Hallmark movies. She's done a couple Hallmark movies. She's like, you should just do one with me. And I was like, sure. She's like, it's super fun. Everybody's cool. Everybody gets it. And I was like, yeah, cool. I go, we play brother and sister. And she looked at me like, she's like, no. No. That would be weird. But yeah, I mean, it would be very difficult for me to even come up with one person that I've ever worked with where I just wouldn't work with them again. It's it's so much fun to work with people again because you've already been in the trenches together and the trust is there and it's just a lot of fun. You're always, I think a lot of actors are looking for that more than you think. And I think the whole mixing it up and not wanting to repeat yourself, I think that's becoming less and less the norm. I think in the old days it was kind of like that. But now it's just like you want to work with fun people and have a good time. Yeah.
Well, maybe in the Kane spinoff. Thank you.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. She could be Eve. She could be my mom. Just don't tell her I said that.
Hi Tom, David from New Jersey. So you did Smallville for a long, long time, and then you came, years later to Lucifer, and you have a different kind of role in that, one is much different than the other. What's the experience like for you as an actor to do that kind of thing, differently? It's still a series, but it's not Smallville. Right.
It was a consideration that, in the prep to play the role. One of the things I did say to myself, because it's, similar style and network, or at least the same genre. And one of the things I did decide is I was going to make sure I was aware that I didn't want to do anything that Clark would do. That was conscious. And the character was written differently anyway, but that was something even the wardrobe people, and I say this now every wardrobe person, because you have this phone conversation with them beforehand about what you like to wear and this and that. I always say, no red and no blue. I do. And they're like, yeah, but those are primary colors in your eyes and your hair. I'm like, And they're like, well, why don't you? Oh, I got you, And so it's a consideration in that respect. But even, I think Kane, he walks differently. He's more playing a long game and moving chess pieces around on the board where Clark's just kind of ran around being like, huh, what happened? You know? So he's actually more of a Lex than he is a Clark, if that makes any sense. So those are things that I did think about. And the other thing, I think I mentioned this earlier, was I really wanted to take sort of the air out of Lucifer's performance. Meaning that he could come in and be flamboyant and do all his funny antics, and Pierce would just be like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, just shut up. And so those little things, you know, which Tom picked up on, so he wanted to get me even more. You know what? Because Lucifer would do that too. That's why the scene, the episode where we're partners and we live together, that's why that was so much fun, because Tom made a point to really try to like get under my skin. Like there's a scene where, it's a very small scene in the kitchen after that dinner that happens, and I'm walking through and I'm putting dishes in the sink, and Tom's sitting on the counter, and he says, aren't you gonna wash those or something? Because he's on the phone. I think he's on the phone, scared. And that was Tom ad-libbing. And that look I give him is like, you motherfucker. Because we were acting, you know, and it's fun. But that's the fun thing about Tom is he's so good at ad-libbing within the scene. Because you can't ad-lib and take the other actor out of it. That's just rude. But he's able to dance in between all the little beats, and it makes every take fun and very energized. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
I'm Allie. So first, can I just say that I'm here just today to see you. I'm 34, so the little girl in me is screaming because Clark was my heartthrob growing up. So I have a question. In the first few seasons of Smallville, before it got to be like Clark and Lois, when it was Clark and Lana, and the way that the show was constructed was that there was like a freak of the week, you know, like a different villain. So my favorite episode was the Nicodemus episode with the flower and the pool scene, and that episode, that was like my favorite Smallville episode, and the tornado ones. But what would be your favorite, if you can remember, because I know it was a long time ago, which would be your favorite, like freak of the week villain, you know what I'm saying, from the first few seasons?
Yeah, I mean, what I always say is my favorite episode is an episode called Transference where Clark and Lionel switch bodies. Yeah. That's my favorite episode just because John Glover is like such an amazing actor in person that was a very exciting episode, and he gave me big compliments that he thought I did a really good job being him, and he thought he did a horrible job playing Clark because he didn't know how to. Lionel's very complicated, John's very complicated, Clark is very simple. And John asked me to come to set one day in the prison, and he pulled me aside, he goes, I don't know how to play Clark. And I'm like, well, you know what? I don't know how to give John Glover acting advice, but I was like, just keep it very simple. Clark doesn't know what's happening or what's going on next. It's not complicated, don't complicate it. He goes, I complicate everything. That's what I do, that's what I can't. I go, just keep it simple. He goes, how do you keep it simple? Like, it was very, very hard. But as far as Freak of the Week, you know, the podcast we've watched, almost done through the second season. I remember Amy Adams being on.
Oh, where she
eats the deer on the side of the road and all that. I like that one because her transformation was something we hadn't done before. Like, she puts on the suit to make her look bigger, and then she shows up at the end like with this super sexy look, like boots and like stomping on Clark, and she's eating deer on the side of the road. And I just remember being like, whoa, we're nuts.
Yeah, that was a fantastic episode. That's so funny you remember that, because after Nicodemus, I would say that was one of my favorite episodes.
Right on,
too.
yeah.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank
and
you.
It is a blessing to meet you today. I can't wait to get my autographed picture.
Oh, thanks. I'll be there.
Are you there? Oh my God, I hope so.
Hi, my name's Amber. I'm from Central New York. I was wondering if there is, hopefully, a second season of Winchesters, would you want there to be an episode where Sam goes and finds Mary and John and asks for their help to basically help him reconcile with his wife and get her back?
Not to put any pressure on his daughter. Oh, Sam, you mean Jensen and Jared?
No, Sam
Oh.
Campbell.
Oh yeah, but he needs Meg's help? And Drake's help? Like, hey honey, you know, tell your mom good things about me kind of thing? Help me get your mom back?
No, kind of say like your mom's not listening to me. Can you go talk to her and stuff like that?
Oh. Yeah, why not ruin her life? Put her in the middle of it so he's not accountable for his bullshit. Yeah, let's throw her in there. I think that'd be fun. Because I think the way it ended, if I understood it correctly, that he's going to find her in a different universe, and maybe things didn't happen in that universe the same way it did in this universe. And I think that that's something to explore. Like maybe he finds her and they didn't get in a fight. And then he's like, you know, we got in a fight in another dimension. I don't know. It could be fun, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Plus I get to drive that car. That'd be fun. Now that's Jesse's car, by the way. Did you guys know that? They brought it in from Austin, Texas. It's the only original one from the show. That's his car. And it was funny because it's an old car, and he's like getting it restored, but it's not done yet. So they had to not film some of it as a result.
Hey Tom, how are you?
Hi.
So I was wondering, what was it like working with Brendan Fraser? And do you think that show will ever come back professional?
It was great. You know, when I found out Brendan was, I was a part of trying to get that show made for about 2 years. And then when we finally were going to cast that role, and it turned out Brendan was going to do it, I was like, oh my God, Encino Man, you know? I'm a huge fan of his.
Yep.
And I hadn't met him, I hadn't discussed, we shot the first couple of weeks in Ireland, and I was like, we got there a couple days early to adjust and rehearse, but I hadn't met him yet. And at the hotel, there's like the lobby, and then there's like the bar where you can like eat and have drinks, whatever. And I was there with my wife and my son, and I was getting up to go to the bathroom, and I took like 2 steps, and there's Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey! And he looked at me and goes, hello. You know, he does that face. And I'm like, no, I'm working with you. And he goes, oh. I go, no, I'm the guy, I'm Tom, I'm playing Vincent, the other. And he goes, oh. He didn't know who I was. And then he's like, oh, I'm so excited to work with you. I'm like, that's bullshit. You didn't know who I was. And he goes, you know, he does that look. And then we just became buddies, and we kind of bonded over like a horrible filming experience. We became close friends, and I joked with him when the Oscar thing was starting. I remember I texted him just like, I'm just really happy that the Professionals was able to really jump back, get your career back on track, and you know, so you could be. And he wrote back something I shouldn't repeat in front of the kids. But no, it was great. He's my buddy, and you know, he's just a great guy.
So it's good you keep in touch. Thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that. So,
It started with an F and it ended with a U.
Hi, Welling. My question for you, well, my name is Sherry, but my question for you is, do you think that you're more similar to your Smallville character, or if you're more similar to your Lucifer character?
Lucifer.
Lucifer?
I like rocks. No, I think Clark, there was a couple times when I'm like, God, Clark is such an idiot. Like, just kiss her, you know? But I think Kane, yeah. And plus, I think it was a more mature character who was a little more, he was wiser in a way where Clark was much of the innocent, so to speak.
All right, thank you.
And I can be crabby. Yeah.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for being here today. I'm Jennifer from Minneapolis. I had the opportunity of meeting you at a different convention, DragonCon, excuse me.
Oh, you can't say that. Somebody might hear you.
Sorry about that. Apologize. I actually have a question that's not even related to either Lucifer or Smallville. It has to do with draft day.
Oh, yeah.
Are you a football fan?
Mm-hmm.
And which team are you a fan of?
You know, I moved around a lot growing up, and you know, when I lived in Delaware, I was an Eagles fan. When I spent a lot of time in Massachusetts, I was a Patriots fan. When I was in LA, I became a Rams fan. You know, I like to watch good games. Aaron Rodgers is a buddy, so I'm a Packers fan. So it's kind of like, you know, here's a funny thing about cons. Because people ask me, what's it like going to a con? You know, and I'm like, well, everybody's happy. I said it's the opposite of going to a football game. Because when you go to a football game, everybody's stressed out, and half the people leave angry. When you go to a con, everybody leaves happy. Everybody has a good time. And sometimes you dress up as your team, whether it's Star Wars or Indiana Jones or Lucifer, or whatever you want. But that's how I see it. It's like everybody's in a good mood. But the reason I did draft day was because I wanted to work with Kevin Costner. That was it. And he couldn't have been better. The first scene we shot was the one where I yell at him, and we did a rehearsal, and the way they rehearse, they don't really do the scene emotionally. It's just for like where you're gonna stand. And when you're supposed to lose your temper, sometimes it's nice to do a take or two to kind of get the blood flowing. But on the first take, they were filming me first, and I get in his face, and I'm yelling at him, and I just forgot my line right in the middle of yelling. And I was like, damn it! And they're like, cut! And I got really upset with myself, really upset. I was very embarrassed. And he could tell, and he kind of goes, hey, it's cool, man, just, you know. And I'm like, well, that's nice of you, but I'm fucking pissed. And he's like, no, it's cool, just don't get mad at me when I mess up my lines. And that helped so much, him just being like, hey, it's cool. Then we did a couple more takes, and then that was it. But those little things help. They help me remember what what leadership is. And I read the other day that leadership isn't about you, but it begins with you. And I've had a lot of great experiences with people like Steve Martin or Kevin, Brendan, people that I looked up to as a fan, and seeing how gracious and wonderful and warm they can be, and being like, oh, you don't need to be a jerk in this business. And in fact, a lot of jerks don't last very long. There's very few. It's a creative environment, and there's no time for that anymore. But so anyway, that's my story, is that being around these successful, warm people and being like, oh, so that's how you do it. It's inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
School advice.
Thank you.